Okay, the next editing tool that we're going to talk about is filtering. Filtering, it kind of works similar to sorting in the way that it gives you the ability to organize your data to get better information from it. And the way it works is unlike sorting, where you just rearrange your data in order to give it some sense of order. With filtering, you do actually restrict the viewing of information that you just don't feel pertinent at that time. So it gives you the ability to only view the data that you really want to see. A couple key things about filtering that is important to know is that filtering is non-destructive. By filtering your data, you're not removing it, you're not destroying it, it's not going to be saved and then lost forever. You do have the ability to remove those filters, and all the information that you have restricted will return. So the first step, we'll just go ahead and jump right in, is look at how filtering works. So we're back at that sorting and filtering spreadsheet we started off with the sorting demonstration. And we're going to isolate and take a look at the type of use of the kind of cars that are being rented here. So you'll see if you look at this group of information in column B that you have business users and you have personal users. Well, let's say that if you were working on an account, you were the account manager for the business users. Well, if you are the business account manager, then you don't really need to see the information for the personal users because that's just not pertinent to you. That's where filtering kind of plays a role. So what we can do with using filtering is we can restrict the view of all of the personal information, all of the personal users, so we will only see the business users, giving us the ability to make better business decisions or isolate the information that we need to analyze a little closer. Well, just like sorting and just like everything else in Excel, there's several different ways to perform a filter. Well, let me show you the first way, which is going to be really the longest way, and let me also give you a few caveats. Not just with filtering, but really in any data set, you want to make sure that your data is clearly labeled as we have it in column 9, or excuse me, in row 9, where we have the type of use, the type of payment, the car size. Those are all clearly labeled. Now you're going to find that that's pretty important. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and drop my selector cell on cell B9, which is the type of use. And I'm going to go up to the Home tab in the ribbon, okay, over to the editing box, and I'm going to go to that sort and filter icon again. But this time I'm going to choose filter. And when I do that, at first glimpse, it doesn't really look like much happened. But if we take a look at the column headings here, you'll notice that there are some down arrows that appear on columns or on the column headings. Now, if you've used the web at all, which I'm sure most of you have, you'll realize that, hey, I think if I click here, I can do something. And if you do, that is what happens. You have the ability to restrict the view to what you want to see. So literally by checking the box of business, it's only going to show me the business customers. And that is filtering. Okay, a couple things about filtering that are really, really beneficial, and depending on what version of Excel you're using, you have a little bit more or a little bit less. You have more than just the ability than just filtering by names. Filtering by names are great, but if you think about it, filtering other things also are very beneficial, like filtering by date. So, for example, how many business customers did we have in the month of March? All right. Well, if we wanted to know that, well, we can turn on the filters and we have them filtered by business type of use. But also, if you click on a data field that has a number or a date in it, you also have the ability to work with date filters. Okay. So here are all my date filters. If I deselect everything and only select the month of March, there I have all of the business customers that rented cars in the month of March. Okay. Now remember what we said at the beginning of this tutorial. If you don't want this, if you don't like the filter, it's not a destructive thing. You can turn those filters off very, very easily. Well, first of all, in order to know how to turn it off, you got to figure out, well, what filter is turned on. And the way to know that is you see the little drop down on one that's not been manipulated. The drop down on the column for payment, which has no filters on it, is just a little arrow. It's where my cursor is right now. But if I go over to type of use, you'll notice that instead of having an arrow, I've got a funnel with a down arrow. And that is the information that's been filtered. Well, if I want to turn that off and I want to see, say, personal and business users, if I click that arrow, I'm going to go to clear filter type of use. And I'm right back to where I started, where now I've got business and personal that are filtered by the month of March. Now, if you want to turn off filters completely, if you want to go all the way back to square one, I'm going to go right back up to the Home tab in the ribbon, Home tab in the ribbon. I'm going to go over to that editing box, and I'm going to just turn filters off completely. Okay. Now, a couple things to know, just like we will say over and over again, there is redundancy built into Excel, several batches of redundancy built into Excel. So what I'll first point out is if you right click, you have the ability to filter. Also, if you go to the Data tab in the ribbon, you have that same sorting and filtering option inside a whole tools group called sorting and filtering, which include also advanced filtering, which would come at a later date in these tutorials. So with that, if you'd like to follow along, again, this is available for you on the course website, and I will see you back again with some basic information on charting.